Okay, here we go. I want to kind of give you an idea what it looks like on the bottom side. It's important as you're setting this plane up that you want this as flat as it can be. So it's kind of an optical illusion. If you're looking at it from this side, it almost looks like you want it to tail off this way. That's not what you want. You want it to be flat on the bottom because that is a flat surface. And as you can see, the flap is pointing down just a little bit. So we're going to take off that servo horn and we're going to tilt this down just a little bit so that it does rest flat. Now the other side we've done, I kind of want to show that to you. We've already done this side so you can kind of see the difference. Hopefully that comes out good enough, but you want it as level as possible with the bottom, not the top, because as you're flying, you want your plane to fly with being able to use no stick. You want it to glide all by itself. So just keep that in mind as you're setting up your servo horns. Another thing I noticed as I turned it over that I don't think I pointed out was these little holes. Now you don't have to do this, but I do that just underneath the speed controllers. Kind of keeps the bottom of the speed controller cool as you're flying if you're doing some good 3D or whatever. And I do also have some wrinkles here. As you start putting a plane together and you start adding weight to it, you'll get wrinkles. So it's important to kind of go over it at the end. You probably really see them here. Go over them as you're all done with your plane. Go over it and iron all those out. Just spray some adhesive remover over the top of the plane and go through with your iron on medium heat and kind of work out some of these wrinkles, like this one right here and this one right here. And those will shrink right up and work right out. So anyway, just that, and we're going to start putting some fins on the sides right here. Kind of helps it stay level flight in the air. We're going to do that next after we get the servos all adjusted. So as you can see, we've got this done, but it's not ready to fly yet. We still got to do the flaps. That's going to be our next video, or they're basically called guides, but whatever. But I just want to kind of show you. You want to test your throw. I've glued in the servos so they're in place. You want to test up, down, left, right. Now I have an old Striker that I use as a reference. It's just basically a wing plane. You've probably seen those types before. I just always, before I ever fly an airplane, even though I've set up several of them, I always want to make sure that everything's working the right direction. You want to make sure that when you go elevator up, the flaps go up. Elevator down, flaps go down. When you do your right aileron, you want to make sure that your right aileron comes up first and that your left aileron goes down. Now these aren't really ailerons, this is what we call them, but they're actually evelons because they're an elevator and a flap at the same time. But a wings perspective, they're called an elevon. So, but just make sure that, like I said, when you go left aileron or left elevon, you want to make sure that the left one comes up first, the right one goes down. Very important, because if you put it in the air and it's backwards, it's going to end up coming down prematurely. So make sure your elevator's up, elevator's down, left aileron, right aileron. Always check those before you start. Last thing, now that everything's trimmed up, you always want to make sure that your props are set the right direction. Now right now, they're both thrusting, and if you had them backwards, and you can wire them up backwards, but you can test it with just a feather brush or a piece of paper, and the more pressure you put, the more it's going to. Now if you put pressure on this side, there's nothing there. You can wire the motors up backwards, so it's always a good idea to test that. I wanted to show you one last thing so you can see how much actual thrust is in this airplane. It'll hold itself up. It'll glide itself. Now the batteries are kind of weak because we've been doing all this testing with the batteries on, but once it's fully charged, this thing should fly with no problems. All right, next step is we're going to take and make some of these balancing fins, and we're going to create them for this plane here. As you can see, both my planes are pretty similar. One's a little bit bigger. This one's a single engine. The one we just built is a dual engine. This is actually my first dual engine airplane, so it's kind of a new one for me. So I'm going to take you over here. What we're going to do is just use basically some stickers and some plastic. I just got the plastic here. I think I got it at Michael's or some hobby store, craft store like that. And then just this sticker stuff, I got this at Hobby Zone. Looked like it was $2.99. So, and then we're just going to basically kind of build it out with a knife, and we'll cut it out and put that on, and I'll show you how we do that. We did here, just took a little piece of paper and we just cut a template to kind of match it up on the back side there, and just put it on your piece of paper, just sketch it out, and once you get that cut out, you just kind of take that over here onto your piece of plastic, cut that out, and then I just cut it out with just some scissors, random standard scissors, and you got your plastic plate, and you just put that here and line that up. This is just a sticky tape, and you just stick it to one side, and you just cut it, and then just reverse it, do it the same thing on the other side, and then when you're all done, it'll look something like this. And then what I've done is cut a little notch out of it for the tape, and then once it goes on your airplane, it looks pretty nice, and that little line, that little hole in there, will actually where our tape goes through and holds it into place. So I'll show you over here on the other one how that's set up. But just that little, you put some tape through it and down, just your hinge tape, and onto the bottom part of it, and that's all you got to do. And then the wings are done, and they're flexible so that it can move. So if you do hit somebody in the air, and these are combat planes, we do build these to flex and be hit. We use that EPP foam, which is pretty flexible foam, so that they're nice and durable. And that's your flaps, or your tail fin. Alright, these fins are all done, and they look pretty good. They're fluorescent. They are flexible, they move back and forth, and they're strapped in with just some tape. Just put a little sticker on there, you know, kind of dress it up a little bit, and that's kind of what they look like. So when they're all done, it's pretty nice. You put a little sticker on that side and kind of dress them up a little bit. But this plane's all complete. So the next video we'll have is it flying in the air. So that's about it. So this process took about 50 hours maybe from start to finish, but if you compile it all in 1 week or 1 weekend, I started on this on Friday night and finished Monday night. So it's kind of been working on and off through the weekend, and you can have it done in a weekend. So, and that's it. And this is the Big Wing Pinata, dual motors, dual speed controllers, dual batteries, radio, and single throw servos, and it's all done.